would like. And trying to find something that's simple that you can start in third quarter in your university environment, and then more importantly, how do you build that simple idea into a greater and greater idea? I mean, one of the strongest trees is the banyan tree, right? Anybody seen a banyan tree? Yeah, I was in Bermuda last week. Fun things entrepreneurs get to do, a business trip. And we saw this banyan tree, and it actually starts out as a very little tree, and over hundreds of years, continued shoots come down and get stronger and stronger, and then it lasts forever. I believe in my hometown, Calcutta, India, is the largest banyan tree according to the Guinness Book of Records. And so I'm going to use that analogy for you to say, pick one idea, plant it when you go back, and then over years you leave a great legacy that you never probably have dreamed about. And so let's find some of those ideas and the stuff we cover, and then depending on how much time's left over, we'll open it up to either stuff we talked about or anything that's on your mind that you think I might be able to help with or Chris might. Fair enough? So that's our outline today. So you sort of have an idea of the map of how we're going to do this. So let's start with my, by the way, there's all of my contact information. Since Chris has already doubled my pay, my continued help to you is unlimited. So you have my email address, which will show up about 3 times in the next few slides, and my Skype address, and truly I mean that I've helped people that Mike has had me help with over the years in different places, and I subscribe to the fact that you pay it forward, you get a lot back in terms of something you might help me with a year from now, 2 years from now, that's a great idea that I could incorporated with the universities I work with. I currently work with 13 universities across Georgia. We'll talk about that, and actually probably going to be 20 universities next year, which is a great experience to have. There's my Skype address, and then I believe when you call the United States, you've got to start with 009. Is that still true? Right. So that's how you connect with me. And as an entrepreneur, I'm always 24/7 available to all of the folks that work in my company and all our customers, so same is true for you in that regard. Here's my story. We'll go through it a little quickly. I told you that I am very blessed. I started a corporate career, which we'll get back to, but then I left a corporate career thinking I was going to retire and come here and work part-time teaching in the executive MBA program. That was back in 2007. And I had just finished working in my, I had a long career in high tech, which I'll cover, and then a shorter career at that time, 8 years in financial services, working for a mortgage bank. And I retired for 2 hours because one of the guys that worked in my organization said, we are looking to start our own company, will you help us? So actually was teaching, and we started this company called Element Funding, that in 2007 was the worst time to start a business in the financial services sector. Is that true in Nigeria as well? Yeah. Right? What a great time. It shows what bad planning on my part. So I've already turned you off from don't listen to me totally, but actually it turned out to be a great time. In 2007, partners got together and said, we ought to see if there's a way to finance residential homes throughout the southeast of the United States. We opened up 3 offices, 2 here in Atlanta, 1 down in Palm Beach, Florida. And it was a tough year. 2007 was tough. God help us, 2008 was worse. We made no money. All our wives said, now tell me again why this was a good idea. We'd all had 6-figure incomes, and so at that point we weren't paying ourselves because we had to make sure we were paying the many other people that worked for us. And then I will tell you, we tweaked our model to where we sort of took a banking model, applied a franchise model to it, and I'm very happy to tell you that by 2009 this thing took off, even during the recession years, and I'm proud to say that we have now financed over $3 billion worth of residential home financing to 19,000 families. I don't think of them as customers, I think of them as families. This month alone we'll do $73 million of that, as an example. In a little company with 165 employees, all of whom I know, and I go out to dinner with, which is really how I tell people it's a nice, easy way to see if you want to hire them. I go to dinner with them and their spouse any night of the week. The other thing I get to do is I serve on 3 nonprofit boards. 2 of them have to do with poverty, and I know that from India there's great property. I got to work with Mother Teresa in the 1960s in one of her missions. And so I know there's great poverty, but believe it or not, there's poverty here in Cobb County and northwest Atlanta. I work with a nonprofit that is connected with the Methodist Church. We serve 200, this summer, for example, I'll give you an example. Kids who go to school that come from lower economic family situations, they get subsidized lunches. Is that how it works in Nigeria? I'm not sure, right? So you don't know who they are at the high school and middle school and so on. But in the summer, there's no school. Somehow we think the agrarian society is still up and alive and so on. So who serves them lunch? Well, guess what, folks like Must Ministries, Action Ministries, we serve 250,000 lunches every summer that we take out to these places, etc. And I am very blessed to be able to see that, in fact, we can give back, even in rich places like Atlanta and across all of Georgia, that deal. So that's the poverty ministry that I get to work with. We do housing across many counties, including a homeless shelter that you may almost pass on the way to the ice cream factory. I think we have 64 beds where people come and stay there for up to 6 weeks. So just the background again. But more importantly, I think the part you'll be interested in is having stopped working here at KSU, I'll talk to you about a program that I get to do with universities throughout the state of Georgia. And all it does is help them become entrepreneurs. And we'll show you some ideas of what we've done with that particular program. So they can see why entrepreneurship is a great, great career opportunity for them. My background, I've already said, I grew up in India, went to England, worked for a year as an accountant, did my MBA in Belfast, Ireland. What another crazy place it was at that time. And then arrived here to do my doctoral work in Louisiana. I've lived all over the United States, in California, and New York, and Connecticut, and Texas, etc. And it is a great country over here. So in that regard, I know some of your environmental differences in government practices. By the way, we have lots and lots of legal issues here. If you don't know about it, anytime that you deal with money, as I deal with, it is a highly regulated industry. So all my folks have to be licensed. We have to be constantly audited by state government, by the federal government, etc. So we have a lot of similar things that I suspect you have to deal with. And then from a business experience, outside of teaching, I worked for high tech for 23 years in the area of specifically for IBM and Xerox, companies you would know, and then got into financial services in 1998. Fair enough? Okay, so let's move. That sort of gives you a little bit of the background. What we're going to do is cover a few case studies in terms of how do universities and or businesses come together and collaborate to have greater outcomes than they could if they worked on their own. That's sort of what these case studies are about. So there again, in case you missed copying any of the information, if you want to connect with me, you are certainly welcome to over there. The case studies, like I said, all will have some connection with universities and and corporations, be they big, small, or whatever size. And together over many years, and there'll be very different examples. So again, if there's something that you think, well, here's an idea I could take back to my particular college or whatever, please ask the question. Because sometimes it's hard to tell the story in just the parts I think may be valuable to you. So here's case study number one. How many of you have business people on advisory boards at your university that you're highly involved with? Is that common to have business people on an advisory board connected with either the College of Business or it could be the College of Arts and Sciences, it could be whatever. Is that not common in Nigeria, sir?
Yeah, we do.
You have them?
Yes.
Okay, how do they run? Do you think well, not so well?
No, running well, they bring a different perspective to the board on which they serve. And,
a good perspective?
yes,
Different, but a good one.
Different.
Okay.
From the academic. And they're usually from the private sector and different kinds of private sector. Who are chief executives.
Okay.
And they offer to serve the public university. So we have them.
Okay. I would tell you that this will cost, how much do you think having an advisory board costs you, would cost the university? Take a guess.
Well, the experience I have in my school is not directly linked with the university administration,
Okay?
but it's purely with student entrepreneurship, like we have in Enactus or what was formerly called
Sure,
SAI.
Enactus or,
Yeah.
yep.
So it didn't cost us money, but they really financed the students' project at
Okay.
the time, and they offered us what we needed to drive the students to achieve what they were meant to achieve in Enactus.
Okay. So it sounds like, I mean, there's not a huge amount of use of an advisory board. I'm going to tell you about one we had and how we got the most out of it, and why business people wanted to be on the advisory board, and why our curriculum got better for it, right? And like I said, because cost is a big issue in almost any university environment, it essentially will cost you nothing. Business people want to help other students. Why? Because the university's clients are not only the students themselves, but the employers, right? Isn't the employer and the university highly linked in saying, if we get better students out of your program, we will be having a better labor force. So they want to help you, and believe it or not, all you got to do is ask. Literally, all you got to do is ask, and I'll show you what we did with an advisory board as idea, case study number one. Okay? And Chris, you have an advisory board, don't you?
Yes.
How does it work?
So, and I guess, like, what if you had an advisory board that actually paid you? Instead of you pay them, they paid you. So that was sort of the concept of what we kind of loosely call the CEO groups. It's the idea of, okay, let's take these business owners that are doing well. We're going to meet with them once a month for a day, and we're going to help them do better. We're going to hold them accountable to certain goals and objectives, and we're going to provide the insight and the help to get them to do better as business owners. They pay us for that right of coming together, and they also provide advice and assistance to the students. So that was sort of the idea behind these CEO groups that you could possibly do, because people some of these business owners got benefit too just being affiliated with the university. And universities, we have the sort of the advantage a little bit, because people think, well, if you're affiliated with a university, you probably know some stuff. I'm a business owner, I need to know more things. Can you help me with my business? I'm struggling with how do I grow revenue? How do I maximize profits? How do I do this? So you say, sure, we can provide that help. You can come once a month, and we will charge you for that. But then you also get the benefit of being mentors to our students and being affiliated with this, and then I can rely on them to be an advisory board.
Okay, so I'm going to cover a little bit about a kind of advisory board that Mike and I put together many years ago. Hey, Mike. Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
So, and then we're going to cover some other case studies that we'll come back to and keep covering. So here's what we did. We put an advisory board together that had a purpose. I'm going to share with you what our purpose was, so it was very clear why they were going to be an advisory board, how much time was involved, and what it would mean in terms of outcomes. And then we measured every outcome. And at every advisory board meeting, we would cover how we were doing. Okay? And the advisory board had members that were both from the faculty, like Mike and myself, when Mike ran the executive MBA program. And I'll show you a roster of members, and I'm telling you, it is easy to ask, and most people will say yes. But you have got to sort of have the white lines in the road as to where you're going, and that's what I think we did very well. And I'll share with you a co-chairs process. So it wasn't chaired by the university, it wasn't chaired by businessmen, it was actually chaired jointly. So that way we sort of said, what's the outcome the business community wants, what's the outcome that the university wants. So here's a portion of the purpose statement. We made every member of the advisory board sign a 2-page document. This is the summary of what that purpose statement was. They would provide advice, opinions, ideas on strategic and operational issues. In that particular case, it was an advisory board to the executive MBA program, but there are advisory boards for a number of possibilities. I think, Chris, you're looking at doing one for the Entrepreneurship Center. I've just been asked to join one down in the south part of Atlanta, not far from where you're staying, at Clayton State University, which is a minority type of student body over there, and we're sort of having a relatively similar set of purpose statements as well, and also to make sure that what we do enables not only their company, but more importantly, the college and the university to get that. So that was our purpose statement, and we made everybody sign one. And it was a 3-year stint, so it's not something, because it takes a while to get things going, etc. And most people love to stay. I'm not going to bore you with, but we had people, I mean, we had a top superintendent from high schools. Why? Because we wanted to know how high schools could work with universities and vice versa. So Buster Evans was on. We had somebody from Hewlett Packard. The Home Depot, that you probably know, is a major corporation, top 100 kind of corporation. And a number of other places, et cetera, that were all represented. So sometimes having the right people and the right mix, but it was very clear that when they joined, they were joining for 3 years, okay? The part I'm going to tell you is we actually had 4 co-chairs to the group. And why? Because there were 2 that were university-based, Mike and myself, even though I was running a company at the time, an entrepreneurship company. So I sort of was a bit of both. And then, on the other hand, we had somebody who was from a small business and then somebody from a very large business. If you don't know Ted Turner is a broadcasting company that obviously is a very large employer here in the metro Atlanta area, but with offices throughout the world, South America, and London, et cetera, et cetera. Paige Lillard was a vice president out of there, was also a co-chair. And we had a succession plan that she would become the main chair after I'd gotten it off for the first couple of years. We did this for several years together. So again, just giving you an idea that says, could you go back and find 10, 15, 20 business people with the right mix of skill sets, et cetera? I think you got another idea from Chris that says, and they in turn might learn something, because there are many things you're teaching that they might want to learn during the time that they're there. We actually measured the heck out of our advisory board. Here were 5 goals. I'm going to actually show you 2 of them with some detail, because I believe if you don't measure, what's the saying, Chris? If you don't measure, it doesn't get done, right? Or something. So we measured the objectives of our advisory board. I think many times people have advisory boards just to put it on their resume. That was not us. You saw the mission statement and the purpose statement. We wanted to measure the results. So I'm actually going to show you item number 2 and item number 5. We wanted them to enhance our curriculum in terms of what we were teaching in the MBA program, and in turn sort of see what we were doing. And then number 5, we actually had another coaching certificate program. We wanted them to be involved in those. I'm going to show you. But we had 5 things, all of which were measured in the ways I'm about to show you. Okay? So for the first one, where we said we wanted them to be involved in the curriculum, we actually had them all write a relatively detailed bio template that we could do searches against. So if we had a particular curriculum module we wanted taught, we could find who had some background. Because just because Paige Lillard today works for Turner Broadcasting, maybe once upon a time, she might have worked for the Coca-Cola company, and she might have done something with Six Sigma or whatever, and we wanted to know that all in the bio sheet. So it was a requirement that soon after you joined, you wrote up this relatively lengthy and searchable bio. The idea was that no less than 10 or 15 interactions between members of the board would occur where they would actually teach in one of our curriculum modules in the MBA program. That out of the 30 of them or whatever on an annual basis, so it wasn't a huge amount, but it gave the people in the MBA program a belief that, boy, this is real, this is what they do in their businesses, etc. And we actually had 18 in the 1 year I looked at. Examples, you might have heard, we have a sister school participation in Bucharest, Romania. So when they came over, we had one of our advisory board members do a keynote speech. By the way, those are easy things to do. Taught a number of class modules on mergers and acquisitions, because here's the deal. Your faculty will typically have an academic and research background that you want to have, and it gets augmented and wrapped around by these folks who are actually doing mergers and acquisitions. Now it becomes very real. So it's not a case study out of the Harvard Business School book. It's something that they did. How did they go through when Delta Airlines and Northwest Airlines merged, kind of deal, et cetera. Clearly lots of things on panels, et cetera. Here's goal number 5, similar deal, use the bio sheet. We had a strong coaching program, and we wanted to know how it would apply at AT&T phone company that's mostly here in North and South America, etc. And we were able to achieve where they got connected to our students as coaches, they became connected to team coaches. There's a strong teaming piece to the curriculum in the MBA program here at Kennesaw. So does that give you sort of an idea of how we use an advisory board, not just as a set of names, but really to do stuff that we measure every single time we met? Okay? An example, no meetings were short. So here's an example of a meeting from 8:15 a.m. I think Americans meet a little earlier than maybe some other countries. And we kept them all the way till 2:30. I think like Chris said, in the middle of the day, they actually had lunch right in this room. So they got to interact with the actual students that they were providing some input for. We went through all of the stuff that I just covered for you. We looked at numbers, etc. So they were like a working, almost governance body to the MBA program. And I think you have that opportunity to involve them. And by knowing them, they'll be involved in many other things beyond the specific requirements of the advisory board. Questions? And then we'll do the same for the CEO. Questions or ideas? Possible applicability? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I just went through the brief I was giving to us.
Can you use a microphone? There, Marco. Thank you.
Yeah, I went through the brief here that was given to us here about their profile. And I found out there that you talk about Atlanta.
My second case study.
Yes, okay, that's the second case study. Okay,
That's
sorry.
fine. Keep going.
Yes, but maybe as we read here, what we want to know is how that competition is done, what it entails, what you do around that.
You've seen my slides. You're just asking me to go to those same
Oh,
slides.
okay, thank you. Yeah.
Will do. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Mark's going to bring you the mic so we can all hear the question or the comment. So, coming up, sir, Thai Atlanta, great organization.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Please, may I know how the advisory board members are appointed? You know, how do you choose them? Who nominates and all that?
Good. Pretty simple. It wasn't a complicated process. I think usually it's through a network. So we would ask current advisory board members who else did they know that would find this valuable. 2 ways. They'd fill out a form and then we'd actually interview them. You will find, I mean, it's easy to do, but you want to make sure that they fit with your purpose statement. Right? We didn't have anybody who was competitors with one another. That was one of our requirements. So we wouldn't have had somebody from T-Mobile at the same time or Verizon at the same time as AT&T. But beyond that, it really was, did we have a rounded set of skills? That's what we were looking for. Sir? Take a couple of questions and we'll go to Casey.
Thank you very much. My question is this. What is the relationship between the advisory board and the governing board of the university?
Okay. So in our mission statement and purpose statement, we were very clear that the governing board, I think there are sort of 2 governing boards. First, there's clearly the one that it reports through called the Regents, I think it's all right, University System of Georgia Regents, that they really report to. So they really run the budget, et cetera, et cetera. Then the university has an advisory board that's cross-campus, across all the colleges, and they care about, you know, how's the College of Arts and Sciences or, you know, the Department of Mathematics working with, et cetera. So they had an advisory board. KSU has many, many, many advisory boards, just like Chris is looking to appoint one just for the Entrepreneurship Center. And then we had one just for the Executive MBA program and the Executive Ed program. So we were very focused on that piece, but we also said that there were, you know, that there were certain things in the purpose statement that the advisory board was not authorized to do. We had no jurisdiction over tuition charges, we had no jurisdiction over grades, et cetera, et cetera. So there were just as much of what's included versus what's not covered. One of the things we chose in the early years was that we would not ask the advisory board, unlike many other board members, to participate monetarily. We wanted their skills, their talent, more than we wanted their money. Good. Last question, then we'll move to the next case study. Sir? Chris, are we doing okay on time? We're about 60%.
Okay, you wanted to know what we will find applicable in our setting. And I can say that the KPIs for the board members, I think, will be quite suitably, usefully applicable in our own environment, because we have board members at different levels. But so far, we don't seem to have adopted, a mechanism, for appraising them and having the KPIs. I will find this most useful when I get back to my university.
And we have KPIs across all 5. Paige Lillard, who happens to be the Vice President of Quality for Turner Broadcasting, helped me really develop them because she's the Business Excellence VP across all of Turner across the world. So she helped us create them together. So they became very business-oriented KPIs, and I enjoyed working with Paige and Ricky. By the way, she was an alum out of our particular program, so it helped because she knew KSU. She had graduated out of our college as well. I keep saying last question, but you're right. This is that shy crowd.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get to the Thai Atlanta.
In the Nigerian university system, we have the university law, the law governing who will be in which structure.
Okay.
Like this advisory board is not in the university law.
Okay.
And it's going to be very difficult for us to implement, except we root it and include it in the university law. Like the faculty, the members of the various faculties are well specified in the university law. And then you bring somebody from outside as part of the...
So it might be not applicable in your particular...
So what do we do in a situation like this? Thank you.
Is there somebody trying to answer that question?
Yes.
Go ahead. See, I told you, this becomes collaborative, right? Real-time collaboration. Sir, grab the mic.
Universities, as they are institutions, do not have the power to appoint these boards. But universities have companies, centers for entrepreneurship development. And these companies the centers for entrepreneurship development can set up companies for different businesses. And these businesses can now set up advisory boards. And companies can have advisory boards that will direct and advise in order to assist in the gearing of the entrepreneurship process.
What I'd add is, don't get caught up on the word board. If you want to call it an advisory council or whatever, that might be applicable because, again, as an entrepreneur, it's how do I get things done? And so the right words might be more meaningful. So here's my whole point is, if it's start simple, but start, right? So I'm going to move to the Thai Atlanta idea next, sure enough? So again, if it's applicable in your environment, find a way. I said maybe 80% and then you have to add or change the other 20. Hopefully that might have given you some ideas. Okay? And again, advisory board sounds more complex and whatever, but we gave it a little bit of structure, but not too much structure. Okay? Did you want to say anything else on CEO groups, or shall I move to Thai Atlanta?
I'll just briefly, I essentially described the CEO groups, but for me it was a little different, and I just want to sort of put this into context, because I know it came up yesterday. I founded the entrepreneurship program at University of Georgia, again, where Nigeria won the gold in Sanford Stadium. So yeah, that same university, that stadium, that's University of Georgia Stadium. I was not given support to start the entrepreneurship program. No money, and it wasn't a belief that entrepreneurship or University of Georgia could be known for entrepreneurship. So I started it with no money and no permission. So I needed a funding vehicle. And so that's why I went to the CEOs and said, okay, my thought was, this is a way that I can get money. I'll get the business owners to meet monthly, they'll pay, and that way I can give them help in their businesses, that's what they're paying for, and they get affiliated with the university. I also started, and I had the students start a business that helped pay for things. Then once we started getting progress, then the alumni and people say, wow, I love what you're doing with entrepreneurship. Then the dean of the university and those people go, wow, we have an entrepreneurship program. And that's how it tends to get. So I just want to point that out.
Figure it out.
For some of us, we may not have the support or the resources, so we have to think like an entrepreneur who says, look, I see an opportunity, and like we talked about last time, it's the pursuit of opportunity without regards to resources. I'm not going to let that stand in my way. And I'm so blessed to be now at Kennesaw State University, where it's the opposite. They support entrepreneurship so much here. And it's a wonderful environment to be in, where the answer is yes, as opposed to, I would stop asking. I say, okay, I know the answer is going to be no, but we're going to do it anyway. How do we get around things? So I just wanted to sort of...
Good solution for the gentleman's question. I think you asked about Thai Atlanta, and so let me tell you about Thai, and I dropped the thing. Here we go. I'm very blessed to serve on the board of Thai Atlanta. But I wanted to sort of give you a context of the Thai organization. And I hope one of you will start a Thai chapter in Nigeria, because it's the only continent in which, African continent, in which we have no chapters at all. So, and you will find it's a delightful, Chris is now a charter member as of earlier this year. So look at this is not working. Okay, if you can go back one slide, that'd be great. There we go. So here's our mission statement. It's a global mission that not only Thai Atlanta enjoys, but Thai Global. Thai Global is headquartered in Silicon Valley, surprise, and so it's got a high-tech kind of feel to it. We're very blessed in regard to that. Somebody back in 1992, I think, started the Thai organization, so it's many years old. And there are many events conducted across 18 different countries across the globe. And you can see what we do is, all we do is, the E in Thai, it doesn't matter what all the rest stands for, is entrepreneurship. And in that regard, we're trying to foster a better ecosystem where entrepreneurs can thrive. Whether you're at early stage, pre-revenue, sold your business, and everything in between. And what we're trying to do is encourage and nurture the next generation. I became an entrepreneur when I was in my 50s. I get to work with people who are now in their 20s. And believe it or not, I even get to work with people who are like 16. Because as Chris knows, I'll talk about a piece of work we do with high school people. When they're freshmen, we just taught an entire high school class across 14 high schools this past year, from August of last year till April of this year, that are in high school, are about 16, 17 years old. Fascinating work. Now, there we go. So it got started in 1992. A number of people with high-tech kind of money said, how do we give back? How do we make the world a better place for entrepreneurs? We have 61 chapters across 18 countries, and as you can see, the missing continent, which I'm hoping that when we next all connect kind of deal, you can tell me that you're willing to get the work going, and we'll get you connected with our Silicon Valley headquarters. We have an executive director named Bridget Connor, who is fabulous to work with kind of deal. By the way, we actually run a business planning competition through Thai Global across all of Asia and all of Europe. And then the winners of those countries come to participate at Rice University in Texas, where the winning prize is $1 million. And last year, the winning prize was from our Thai chapter in India. And I mean, it's just fascinating work that is going on. We have 13,000 members, so a huge ecosystem. So if I have a question about how does intellectual property work for Europe, I can connect with somebody for a subject that would normally cost me tens of thousands of dollars just because of this network of members that we have. This is what we do here in Thai Atlanta. Thai Atlanta is the fourth biggest chapter across the Thai global system. We have, as you saw, 61 chapters. We're the fourth biggest by revenue. That's how we count. And we count everything. If you haven't figured it out, we love counting. I think if you don't know how to count, you don't know what's going on and what's working and not working. And I'll show you our actual 2015 measurements. We have raised almost $1 billion in venture funding, generated huge amounts through M&A kind of activities, thousands of jobs. And I'll show you, like this year alone, how many people we've mentored into becoming entrepreneurs or better entrepreneurs. So specifically in Thai Atlanta, we have 5 things that we do. They're on the corners of this, what we call the virtuous cycle of wealth. We're helping build wealth for our economy. And specifically here, the one I'm going to talk to you the most about is the one on the top right, the youth one, which stands for Thai Young Entrepreneurs. So when I say TYE, it's the same thing, and that's the one we do with high schoolers and with universities specifically. But we have other things. Next month in June, we will run, actually every quarter we run an accelerator program that costs little to nothing for people to participate in so they can get going with their business, either if they're at pre-startup or just getting into beta testing. COBA stands for the Council of Board Advisors. We take companies that are about $1 million in revenue and want to get to 10 million in the next 2 years, and we provide them another set of advisors to do that. E2E is how to connect with the bigger companies, and then we do a lot of stuff on social business as an example. How do we do this? All of us are busy. Chris has a job here at PSU. I have a job running a financial services company. All of us are busy. We have been very fortunate that through the university system of Georgia, across 17 of our campuses, we have an organization. And so what the learning from here is collaboration through partnerships. We write a one-page document, a letter of intent understanding each year, and the state director for the Small Business Development Center signs it, our board president signs it, and this is how we're going to work together. No money exchange, etc., but we use their media, we use the fact that they've got consultants on 17 campuses across the great state of Georgia, etc., and that's how we do it. They just changed directors. The one who just replaced the lady that I was dealing with, who I got to know through KSU. I've already talked with her successor, and he's going to now participate as being our main contact. So I think here's some of the numbers. So sir, I'm going to answer you a question of what we've done with this thing called Thai University. You can see we have a little logo at the top that looks very university-ish in some fashion. And in 2 years, I think of the Thai University program that we've constructed here in Thai Atlanta as being a 24-month startup. And that's how we act. We act entrepreneurially. It's 24 months. We've done 2 years of work now with the small business development centers. Over 30 teams of students from colleges. You've got to be in college now or graduated no more than 1 year ago. And you can participate in a competition. We've had over 100 students in our first 2 years of startup. We've engaged 16 universities across our great state. I'll show you who they are. You might know some of them. And they love the fact that we're sort of objective. We're not a competitive university. Chris had a team, I think Mark had a team in 2014. I think they won 3rd prize, if I recall, right? On something to do with vitamins. It seems healthcare is a big topic, as you can imagine. We have members across our organization. We allocate 2 mentors or coaches to every single team. So you can't just join our competition. You're actually getting real business people to help you. All of this is done with there are no dollars involved. We've now asked for a grant from the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta, which is probably going to come somewhere this year or next year, but it's really not critical for us to grow. And I'll tell you where we're headed with it next. And we take surveys all the time, and our survey satisfaction scores are well into the 90+%. Here's the list of universities that if you said, who's our client base that we have touched, some of which you've heard about, there are probably about 45 to 50 universities in our state. I think next year about half of them will be participating. Some that you don't see here have already called me. Morehouse College, which is a great college for minority students, wants to participate. Mercer University wants to participate. So the word's getting out because they view us as being a way where their students can come and get real-time entrepreneurial skills. And then the next step is we're actually going to start some companies that we, Thai Atlanta, will have ownership in that the students can come work in. So taking it from a business plan competition, we raise literally each year, we give away about $10,000 in prizes at the university level and about $3,000 to the high school level. All of which is raised just by me asking, twisting people's arms to write a check. So, Chris, I'm coming up. So a lot of universities, as you can see, Kennesaw State, etc., but just a number of universities are involved. I'm very blessed by the fact, so we have prizes, we have a lot of things, and there's a lot of work to be done, but it's fun. And the students, I'll tell you what I love doing. about it and why you'll find business people like to work with university students. To the business people, these are our employees of tomorrow. If they're currently working, in many cases they are, right? We want them to be better, we want to leave our state a better place kind of deal. We similarly, well, let me go back one. So I have never found one person say, I can't help you. If I say, do you want to mentor a team? Almost always it's absolutely. And they do it for 3 or 4 months and we'll get everybody engaged. And it's all done with no economic exchange at all. So in that regard, I'm going to do the last slide and then open up for questions on the case study. I told you we measure the heck out of everything. We've mentored 35 companies this year already out of 100. And we are taking some of our student companies and moving them through the investment phase. Will happen in August with pitch panels and so on, where they're pitching to investors. In fact, some of them actually pitched to Steve Case, who you may know was the founder of AOL. He came through Atlanta recently, I think last week, or whatever. We've got dozens and dozens of our charter members. That's what CMs are involved. Chris and I are going to talk about how he wants to be involved as a new charter member. And so we measure the heck. We're actually way over the number of people we mentor. And in this particular case, it involves not just students, but people who might have graduated and current entrepreneurs want to be mentored. I think that was the idea of your CEO groups. How do I think of it as continual learning, right? So that was a lot of stuff I covered very quickly. Questions? This case study. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you very much. What,
Oh, thank you very much. We have a clear understanding of what you do. But the people you mentor or the membership, how do you recruit them? How do you come about them? What are the criteria? Is it open to everybody? And secondly, we are interested in seeing how this kind of organization like the TIE can come to Nigeria. For instance, we have a network we started in Nigeria for students to form clubs.
And I heard Enactus, somebody mentioned Enactus as one such network. Right?
Yes, we have a network of student club that we started not too long ago, but it's still growing. And we felt that this kind of arrangement will help us so that we leverage on it to see how the network that we're running for each of our universities in Nigeria, in fact, and even across Africa, to see how we can leverage on this to build on that. And then, thirdly, the funding of this TIE. How does it come? And those who work for TIE, how are they remunerated? How are they paid? Is there the money coming from somewhere? Or what do you do? So get those clear. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Great questions. Let me try to see if I remember them. And if I don't, I'm going to ask for your help, right? Let's say your memory fails when you're standing up. It's much easier when you're sitting down. So your first question is, how do we recruit people? And I think you meant to be mentees or mentors. Which? Both? Mentees. Okay. So the mentees at the university level, right? Okay. I have been very lucky because it's just like Chris said, as an entrepreneur, I said I set KPIs at the beginning of each academic year of how many universities we want to have and how many students we want to engage with, kind of deal. So once you know, you've got a very clear measurement and out of those teams. So we said this year we wanted to have 10 universities and 15 teams. We ended up with 13 universities and 21 teams as an example. How did we get to that? Two ways that we got to it. Number one is, remember I told you about the partnership I have with the Small Business Development Center? So my initial media campaign was through them. They're already sitting on these 17 campuses, etc. And we hold a teleconference with them so they can go engage with the faculty members who are teaching entrepreneurship classes. They can go engage with entrepreneurship centers, etc., to tell the students about it. Okay? I'm also very fortunate that here in Georgia we have something called the University System of Georgia, which is probably not unlike your consortium, but I don't know. So we have about 35 universities that make up the university system of Georgia. And I connect up with the person who is the business school chair of all the business school deans. And that person becomes my liaison to get the word out through the business school deans. So I create at the beginning of each academic year the media campaign, okay, that says, look how great it was last year. Wouldn't your students want to have that? He sends out the email to all his deans, who in turn know who are the faculty members and who are the Enactus clubs and all of that. So that's how the word gets out. And it has very specific, and then I hold teleconferences that anybody who's got a question can call into. 15-minute teleconference, you got a question, I'm going to answer it. We have a website that we drive them to us kind of deal. And that's how it just, the word just happens. I'm telling you, I'm amazed. It's, you know, I'm not always sure how it happens, other than we end up with getting people who want to participate, because there's no cost to participating in the Thai University competition. Does that help answer some of what we have done? The third thing that we've done in that area, now I also want to answer your question B and C. The third thing that we have done is we are kicking off on June 17th, so 9 a.m. Chris on your calendar. We are going to create an academic network of people who are involved in entrepreneurship, and we're going to have web seminars that can help one another and share best practices. So if Chris has a great idea, how can he share that with Georgia State University or Mercer University or Clayton State, and vice versa if another university has done a great idea. So we're going to have 90-minute calls initially once a month for the academic network of people, because once I can engage the academics, they know the students that they want to involve, they get the word out, they become my PR channel, as it were, and we're kicking that off as the next phase of growing our Thai University program. Questions 2 and 3, I'll go a little quicker. I think question 3 was about dollars and money. What was question 2?
Funding, remuneration.
Okay, that was question 3, right? So I'll get to that. Thai is a worldwide program. Mostly it's a nonprofit. We are set up as a charitable organization. Folks like myself write checks to, literally we pay to play. So I write checks from either my company or I have a personal family foundation, and we write checks. So we have membership dues that are smaller for, like, it's a small amount for a student person or a general member, but those of us like charter members, we are shareholders of the organization, we write large checks. And my family is very supportive of it because education is important to us, and I don't have a problem when I say I got to turn out $10,000 in prizes. Probably in the same week I'll raise the $10,000 afterwards. So it's a matter of asking. Number 2, we have sponsors. There are a lot of companies that want to use the PR platform of the Thai organization. So we have accounting firms, we have law firms, we have intellectual property firms, we have insurance firms, all who pay pretty large annual sponsorship dues, typically $10,000 to $20,000. Okay. How does all of that work then? We have all of 2 staff. All the rest of us are unpaid, and we run 70 programs a year in Atlanta alone with 2 staff. How do we do that? We outsource all event planning and all event delivery through a third party. So that's how our budget works. We end up with a budget kind of deal. It runs just like a profit organization, and there are 2 paid staff that do much of the day-to-day work. I happened to get some of the slides last evening because one of them was in California visiting at Silicon Valley, and one of them was here, so they sent me a lot of the slides that you just saw. Good. Next.
Collaboration.
What?
The African segment to do it.
Oh, yes. As you can see, it's a big whole. I mean, it's the whole continent of Africa. We don't have a chapter. And if somebody here wants to sort of connect with me, we'll figure out how to do a teleconference, et cetera, with our global director in Silicon Valley and see what it takes to start a chapter. But I would tell you that we like the fact that it's global and that we can help one another. Okay?
How do you manage timing? You know, the students are coming to read a particular course. This was what came up yesterday. So that your activities don't conflict with the students' main course of study. That is 1. 2 is, have you mentor the students and some of them graduate? Have you been monitoring their activities? Those of them who have graduated, how have they been faring? Or they just graduate and forget about what you have taught them?
Right. Good questions. So I'll hit the highlights on the two. I think you've got to get past the assumption that what we do is not studying. What we do is studying. What we do is giving them real world mentoring experience. So this is study, and it's studying for free. I mean, how much better could it be when they pay to go to a class here at Kennesaw State versus they come to it? So in my view, it's not or, it's and, right? I tell them this is a way to further your career, to learn about internships, to study better. Oh, by the way, it's all self-nominated. Okay? We use the SBDC to do some filtering, but in that regard, you've got to set a mindset that this is studying at its best. Isn't that what you're doing at universities? So that's why I'm connected with the person who heads up all the deans, and they view this as being equal to studies, not better, not worse. Okay? And what the students do is they prioritize their time. They can watch a little less television, they can do other things, they can participate, and they learn a lot. Okay? And I think your second question was?
That's
Monitoring the process. So we maintain, we're working with some social media ways to stay in touch with these students. We want them not to just participate in our program, we want them to actually open up companies. So right now I'm helping a company, one of the students who has a product. I'm diabetic, I don't know if diabetes is a big disease in Nigeria, right? And so I'm a wuss, that's an American term for I'm just terrible at being able to prick my finger and get blood in order to monitor it. Well, his company has created a watch-like program that monitors your blood glucose levels through the skin without puncturing it. So I'm helping him in that particular case to get through all the intellectual property kinds of stuff, the FDA requirements through our membership kind of deal. Our next piece of measuring and KPIs is how many jobs we've created and how much revenue our company's raised. Okay? Yeah. And then Chris, I'm going to either call it and not cover any more given the time, right?
No, thank you for the presentation. You are talking about students who are on the campus where already entrepreneurship programs are being run. So what are you doing that is very different from what is being done on the campus? And is there no fear of duplication of efforts?
Great question. So I'll give you an example. I think, first of all, people who work on campus, I don't know what it is about Georgia universities, they like working within their campus. They almost never work across campuses. Isn't that true, Chris? Don't people work very little across campuses with more intra-university? So one of the differences that if you're a student at this school, you get to interact with our program with people from another school, and you might pick up an idea from another faculty advisor. So there's a differentiation. In fact, we believe we are the largest entrepreneurship competition in the state of Georgia because it crisscrosses. I mean, I know of nothing else that covers 13 universities, kind of deal. Number two is I think what's done on campuses tends to be, I hate to say it this way because I've lived on both sides, it's more theoretical, very research oriented. Often the teachers are not currently working kind of deal. We augment that by interacting with mentors who run real businesses. So in that regard, I think the faculty view it not as competition, but additive to their learning experience as well. So those are a couple of things. And we don't have any charges. So I mean, there's no cost. Now we are going to charge for the first time. We're going to charge $25 on June 20th to run a one-day seminar on an accelerator. And you know what? If some student called me up and said, I can't pay that, I'll give them a scholarship. So there's ways around it. Just like Chris says, find answers if in fact there's a roadblock. Okay. Is this an applicable idea for you folks in Nigerian university settings? So I'd love to continue the conversation, and I know we're pressed for time, so we'll take this question and then I'll do some wrap up. Is that okay, Chris? Yeah. Rather than Chris has the rest of the slides that we may not get to. So we got 3 case studies done.
Thank you for the beautiful presentation. I just want to make a contribution.
Yeah.
The essence of this training is to translate idea into reality.
Correct.
And also domesticate what we have learned here in our give us investors. I want to do something. I want you to close your eyes, your two eyes, and touch me.
Everybody or
No,
just me?
only you, only you. Open your eye first.
Open
your
up.
eye, yes.
Okay.
Just touch me. Close your eye and touch. Where? Just come here and touch
Okay,
me.
and touch you.
No. Go down, close your eye and come and touch me.
Oh, I gotta come in with
Yes.
my eyes closed.
Yes. Close your eye now, just touch me.
Okay.
Close your eye,
I'm holding on to my wallet.
close your eye and touch
As you close your eyes.
Okay, something's closed.
Stop.
Can I open it
me.
now?
Open your eyes.
Okay, and I still have my wallet, thank you.
You can go now. Everything in life begins with a process. Thank you. In entrepreneurship, we have a process. In your discussion of CEO group, the first thing you discussed is the mission statement of the CEO group.
You gotta answer why.
And number two is vision statement of the CEO group. Then the purpose. You can't discuss the mission statement as a process in business without vision. If you don't have the foresight, ability to see,
Where you go?
you can't move. So the person that you must come first, there, can you go there again, please? Your first line, first line.
On the vision statement
Yes.
for Thai?
CEO group. So, okay, look at
There
it.
we go.
Look at it.
Yep.
What's the first thing there? What is the second? What is the third? Swap it. Vision should come before mission. Thank you very much.
I don't think of them as first and second, I think of them as parallel. You gotta know where you're going. By the way, I tell my students who come to these things, you know of business planning, and then you know of lean startup, so sometimes you have general ideas, and then you sort of make decisions as you go. So what I want you to remember is, start something, start simple, versus I want to get all the points in the road, all the maps before I start. By then you'll be 3 years from now. My challenge to you is be more 3 months from now. Fair enough? We agree? Yeah. Good deal. Here, I'm going to end with this. Here, I said I would ask, I'm going to bypass all these, some other case studies. I said we'd ask for 2 or 3 people to tell us what's one idea you think you can actually go apply in your environment. So, do we have one guinea pig? There you go.
The title.
The what? Type. You think that's very applicable? I get a lot of sense that that could be applied.
Very much applicable.
Because we had a similar organization that we run like that across universities and institutions like this, CIFES.
Okay.
But we see this as new because we felt that we want to integrate it into our student club, existing student club, and then to link up with you. Hopefully, in the next competition, we hope Nigeria will win the next 1 million.
Awesome. I'm for it. By the way, we are now hosting the global competition for high schoolers next month here in Atlanta. So they will be here and we will have people from all over the world, high school level, competing in our competition. Because we won last year, so we get to host this year. I hope we win again. In that case, we'll host next year again. So maybe Nigerians will
Yes,
come
it's okay. But
visit
how
us.
will Nigeria be part of it? Is it late to be involved?
Say that again.
I said, how do we get involved in the competition?
The university level one?
Yes.
So that will start, our PR campaign starts in August.
Okay.
Our nominations will be in December. But we'll connect you up because we currently have that through Thai Global. I just run the one in Atlanta for all the Georgia universities, but Thai Global runs the one in currently Asia and Europe, and we'll find out why not Africa.
Okay, thank you.
Fair enough?
Yes.
That's the one that ends up at Rice University with $1 million prize.
Yes.
One more person with your, what did you learn or what's your idea you're going to take away?
We're going to form an advisory board
Okay?
for
When?
For our MBA program, the executive MBA program we are now starting.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said we are going to form an advisory board for
At your
our
university.
executive MBA program
Excellent.
in my faculty.
Good, and both Mike and I can help you in that regard with what we've done in ideas. Okay, last, he had his hand up first, so I said I'd pick on 3 people, because I think that we're going to end this topic.
Yeah, from your presentation so far, I think when I get back, I'm going to suggest to my vice chancellor to take another look at the operations of the advisory board.
Okay.
We have an advisory board in my center, but from what your presentation, we don't have any indicators on how to measure their achievement in
Results,
mission
and vision. Excellent. I hope all of you will remember the one thing I challenged you with before, because I think we're going to, got one comment. Cap, somebody wants to make a comment, so I was going to end here otherwise. Yes, sir. You have a mic there? Where's Mark when you need him? No? Go ahead and pass it over. One last comment and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment on one of the things I think I will take away.
Okay.
The curriculum is very important, and I think it's one of the challenges we are facing in our Nigerian universities. And I'm happy to notice that you said you are advisory council or board, enhanced curriculum to ensure continuous improvement and ongoing relevance. You see, our entrepreneurship departments in the universities, as it is today, the curriculum were actually influenced externally by UNESCO and ILO. And I think this is not having local contents. So I believe maybe by the time we go back, our universities will be able to, apply this type of process of using the advisory council to fine-tune or restructure our own curriculum.
Awesome. You folks have done me proud. I'm real pleased to have spent the morning with you. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Just want to take a brief break here to introduce you to the Dean of the College of Business that we visited yesterday. You saw the building on campus. This is Dr. Kathy Schweig. She's Dean of the Coles College of Business, and she just wanted to say a few words to you.
Good morning. Let me just extend my welcome to each and every one of you. We're very grateful that you're here, and I was just briefed about this program, and I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming here. I believe you have some of our very, very best instructors talking to you about entrepreneurship and how we've structured our entrepreneurship programs here at Kennesaw. Chris Hanks just joined us about a year ago, and we're just delighted that he is here and really helping us to take our entrepreneurship center to the next level. And we're just grateful, really humbled that you're here, and I hope the experience has been a good one for you. Entrepreneurship plays a very, very big role in who we are as a university at Kennesaw State, who we are as a city and in Atlanta. We have a lot of inspiring entrepreneurs here in Atlanta, and then it's just really heart and soul of who we are as a college of business. So again, thank you for being here. It's just a pleasure to see each one of you, and I hope you'll come back.
Yeah.
I love you, Tom.
All right, let's give her a hand because without her, I would not be here. So thank you so much. Could not start that seed, plant that seed for our Iroko tree. Absolutely. All right, no good. Here's what we're going to do. I have another speaker here, but it's very brief because he's on a hard time deadline. So we're going to speak just for a little bit, and then we're going to take a break, get you stretched and all that kind of stuff. But here's what we're going to talk about next. Because there's a lot of people who may believe that entrepreneurship is only for wealthy, that you have to have money, or else you can't live this life. You can't sort of pursue the possibility of something better if you have money. But what about the poverty, and how does entrepreneurship meet the poverty? And how do we address that? Because 1 in 7 kids do not know when and if their next meal is going to come. 1 in 7 children in this world don't know that. Like, where's it going to come from? So we have a guest who that's what he does. Meet entrepreneurship where it meets the poverty. Not just, okay, well, this person already has some savings and they can start a business, and this person can do all these amazing things. So, with that, I would like to introduce to you my friend Chris Chancey with Hope International.
Hello. Okay, I'm going to practice a little here. Ina Kwama? That was my best shot. Okay. I might try a little bit more later, so you'll have to make sure you're listening. Okay? So, good morning. My name is Chris as well. So I'm Chris the Younger. I'm excited to share very briefly with you. I want to talk about how microfinance and savings can be used. You've heard the term of microfinance, certainly, right? So I work for an organization that uses microfinance, and what we say is we're doing this in underserved communities around the world. We're investing in families in underserved communities around the world. So I want to talk about 3 conditions that are necessary for economic growth. And I hope this will be very encouraging for you, and we'll have a few minutes for questions as we go. So I grew up here in Georgia. I went to the University of Georgia, where we were able to celebrate with you, the soccer champions in our stadium. You know about this, right? Yeah. And then I moved to do graduate studies to Denver, Colorado, to the Rocky Mountains. Has anyone ever heard of the Rocky Mountains? Yeah? So we drove from Georgia to the Rocky Mountains, and we got to Colorado, and guess what we found all over the ground, everywhere we looked? Snow. That's right. Has anyone ever seen snow before? Yes, okay. Have you ever been skiing? Anyone ever been skiing? Okay, well, we got to go skiing. Okay, stand up right now. We're going to go skiing. Stand up. So we got to stretch out a little bit. Make sure you're awake. All right, stand up. This is very important to know how to ski if you're gonna talk about business and entrepreneurship. Okay, so if we're standing at the top of the mountain, you're looking down at nothing but snow in front of you, and it's a very steep decline. It's very cold, so first make sure you put your jacket on and bundle up really tight. Okay, put your jacket on. Okay. All right, now you got to step into your skis, and it's very difficult. So you have to spread your legs and step into your skis. Okay. Now, when you begin to move down the mountain, you don't want anything to fly up and hit you in the face. We have to protect our beautiful faces, right? Okay, so pull your goggles down and put them on your eyes. Okay. All right, now get your ski poles in both hands. Okay, then the scariest part, you stick your butt out and you begin to lean forward, and all of a sudden you lose control and you're going down the mountain. Watch out for the tree! Watch out for the tree! Okay, now jump sideways, you can stop. Okay, you can sit down. Okay. Now you've all had a skiing lesson, so when you go to the Rocky Mountains, you'll know how to ski. You think you're ready? Yeah, okay. So when we think about the 3 conditions that are important for economic growth in underserved communities, I think there's something that's been happening for a long time. Okay, here's I'm going to practice one more time. Okabo? Is that a taxi? A motor scooter? Okabo? Okada. Okay. All right, Okada. All right, if you take an Okada and it's in Nigeria and you have a long road, you can go very fast, right? Maybe too fast if I'm on it. But if you take that same Okada and you put it in the Rocky Mountains, it's not going to go very far, is it? And why would it not go very far? The terrain, the conditions are not right for it to move forward, correct? And maybe you've heard this term, it will be spinning its tires. Right? So for a very long time now, students have sat under your instruction and they've learned a lot of wisdom from you about how to succeed in business, but they step into the terrain, the conditions of economic growth, and they begin to spin their tires. Correct? And even more than the students that you work with, there are people in the rural communities in Nigeria who don't get to sit under your instruction, but these are people who are beautiful, they have lots of ideas and intelligence about how to run businesses. And for many of them, they're in the same situation. They want to move forward, but their Okada is in snow. It's not going to go very far, and the tires will spin. Is this true? So we get to go to many countries around the world and step into those situations. And we say that there are three things that we believe can begin to melt the snow away so the Okada can move down the road. Okay? You tracking with me now? Okay. So I'm going to talk to you about those three things, and I want to share a little bit about our story as an organization. So to start with, presently today, we are serving almost 1 million clients around the world. So we are providing small loans and saving services for almost 1 million clients around the world. There are some in Asia, in Eastern Europe, in South America, and in the beautiful continent of Africa. We are working in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Burundi. Oh, right now in Burundi is very difficult times right now.
And not in Nigeria?
Yes, in Nigeria, but the coup just happened, 2 days ago, right? Yeah. Malawi, we were working in Malawi, and 3 days ago I was sitting with the president of Malawi in Philadelphia, and we were talking about microfinance and how it's impacting her country, President Joyce. We're working in the DRC. We're working in Congo, Brazzaville, which is maybe the closest place to Nigeria. We are not working currently in Nigeria.
Why?
That's a good question. But there are some organizations, and I can share with you, that are working there. But we haven't made our way to East Africa yet, to West Africa yet. Only down, further south. So let me share a little bit about our organization, how we started. So there was an entrepreneur in Pennsylvania, which is further north from here, and he was a home builder. And as he was building his homes, he began making lots of money because people were moving into his homes. And he said, I want to use the money that I have to help other people around the world, because I know people are not as blessed as I am. And so he went to his church, his Christian church, and his church said, we're going to take a trip, and we're going to go to the country of Ukraine. Have you heard of the country of Ukraine?
Yeah.
There's also lots of snow there, too. This was right after the fall of the Soviet Union. So a lot of the government structures in Ukraine were no longer in place. And there was a lot of poverty in that country. And so this church took a lot of supplies over to Ukraine and began to hand them out in the streets to anyone who wanted them. They were giving out food, they were giving out jackets, they were giving out shoes, sugar and rice, and anything that people wanted. They're giving them away for free. And so he took part in this. But as a business person, he came back home and he started scratching his head a little bit. Everybody scratch your head. Do you do this when you're trying to think about something? He started scratching his head. He said, if I'm a business person, but I go to someone and I give them something for free, is that really going to help the economy succeed? No. Maybe there's a place for that, but in many cases, it might cause more harm than good. Yes? So there's a scale that we talk about. It's called the 5 levels of dependency. There's a lot of people in America who, with good intentions, with a good heart, have said, I want to help people in Africa. I have been blessed with money or other things, and I want to help people in Africa. And many times, without meaning to, they give things away for free. but sometimes that can cause more harm than good. So the 5 levels of dependency look like this. We say, if someone gives you something one time, you look at them and you say, oh, thank you very much. Why don't you turn to someone next to you and say, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And that's good. Nothing, not yet. Okay. But if someone gives you something the second time, now there's a little bit of expectation. Expectation. So look to the person next to you and say, are you going to give it to me again? Someone said, how much? Okay, now if someone gives you something for a third time, it's anticipation. So now you turn to your neighbor and you say, when are you going to give it to me again? When are you giving it to me again? And that's a big change from the first, right? Okay, now the fourth time. If I give you something for free, the fourth time, it sparks entitlement. You heard this word? Entitlement. Now you look at your neighbor and you say, I deserve what you have to give to me. I deserve it. Wow. Going from thank you very much, I really appreciate, and earnest, I really am grateful for what you have given me, to now, I deserve what you have. I'm not bending over with my hands out anymore. Now I'm sitting back. My chest is out. My hands are open because I know you're bringing it to me. I deserve it. But the worst case is the 5th time, and any time beyond that. We call that dependency. And that's at the point when you turn to your neighbor and you say, I am helpless without you. I am helpless without you. What a horrible transition. Yeah. So we've seen this in so many places, but certainly in Africa, where people have really meant to do well, but instead they have just given freely. And most often the places that are most effective are these rural communities where we as Oyinbo, where we see the most poverty. We see the most poverty, so we want to respond. And what we end up creating is dependency. So when we talk about 3 conditions for business growth, for economic growth, the first one is no dependency. No dependency. If people can do something for themselves, they need to be able to do that. And we need to support them to do that, right? So when we go into a community to provide small loans, we first have to come with this idea that we're not giving anything out for free. We want people we want to invest in people and use the God-given abilities they have to see them succeed, okay? So let me continue the story. Remember, the businessman is scratching his head and he says, I don't think this is going to work. So he goes back 6 months later to Ukraine. And this time, he started to notice some things. There was a business on the main street corner that was selling the same things they gave away 6 months ago. And now, the business was closed. They're no longer open for business. So now, once all the free goods were used, everyone in that village has to go to the next village over to get the things that they need. So no matter how much they were paying for those things before, now they have to pay more because they have to travel to another village to get them. It caused a very difficult situation. So he went to a pastor in his community and he said, you need to tell me the truth. Are we causing more harm than we are good? And the pastor was very honest. He could have said, no, keep bringing free stuff. But he said, yes, this is causing more harm than good. And so, because of that, this businessman said, okay, we can solve this. And so his next step was he got a bunch of equipment, some machinery, and he placed them right outside of this town. He built a warehouse, and he trained everyone in the town how to produce sunflower oil. Have you seen sunflowers before?
Yeah.
Do you have sunflowers in Nigeria?
Yes.
Nigeria has many beautiful flowers, right? So sunflower oil production. A lot of people can use the oil from the sunflower. So he trained these people how to use it. They set these machines in place, spent thousands and thousands of dollars and built a warehouse. And he left, and he thought, I've solved the problem of poverty. Do your hands like this. I've solved the problem. 6 months later, he comes back to Ukraine, and he's expecting to see production, sunflower oil. But he comes to the warehouse, and guess what? It's empty. There's no one there. The lights are off, and cobwebs are all over the machinery. And he realized in that moment that it was his idea. He was forcing upon someone else. They had no effort in the process. They had no say in the process. They didn't have a vote in the process. And so that began to help him think even further to this idea of providing small loans to those people who need it the most. They have no access to a bank. And let them use their own intelligence and their own creativity and their own experiences to go and start whatever business they have experience in, and walk alongside them to help them succeed and pay back their loan with interest. And so you may have seen this, but the basic principle is that we're going to go to a community, we're going to gather a group of people, and we're going to provide them with small loans. And in the process, they're going to pay back their loan with interest. Every 2 weeks, they're going to pay a portion back. But here's the very key principle for us. If one person cannot pay their portion of the loan for that week that we gather, the rest of the people at the table have to cover that person's amount for that week. And so what this promotes is strong accountability, unity among the community. And the metaphor we use is that if you could picture some boats in a port, if one boat rises, it's because the tide is rising, the water is rising, all the boats in the port will rise. If one person can begin to succeed, we don't want to see people pulling that person down and saying, no, that's not fair, I want to succeed. We want to see everyone succeeding together. So we don't want to see dependency. We can't have any more of that. But what we do want to see is jobs. We want to see business. So the second condition for economic growth is simply that people have jobs. For us, we see the impact when we're able to provide a small loan. And in many cases for us, in US dollars, it's about $200. So over a 6-month period of time, they'll pay that loan back. And we also have a savings program where people are able to begin saving together. And this is happening all over Nigeria, I'm certain. But the only thing that we provide is more structure to the process. So not that you are just saving, you're passing the hat around each week. You are familiar with the savings groups, right? Yeah. What are they called in Nigeria? Maybe you go by different names. But in many cases, if this table was a savings group, there are 5 of us, so it would last for 5 weeks, right? And you're going to bring, everyone's going to decide how much they can bring, and you'll pass it around the table. What we try to do is provide structure so that for these 5 people, they understand that that's a great way to start. And that works for 5 weeks. But if we can do this for an extended period of time, you can grow, not just so that you receive a little bit once every 5 weeks, but that you begin to serve as a bank in your community. That you develop enough of a sum from this group that you begin making loans in your community. And it's so powerful when a group of people, over a period of time, delayed gratification, can take a sum of money and invest it in one business in their community. Because now everyone is behind this one business, and if that business succeeds, all the boats in the port rise. So it's not just we don't want dependency. It's not just that people need jobs, but what we believe is the third element that makes this work is probably not what you would expect. We can talk a lot about processes and really scientific approaches to economic success, but we believe the third level has to do with our character. And so we say that third level it's all about how we treat each other, having respect for one another. And one term we use for that is neighboring. So you have a neighbor, right? And that's usually a noun. It's a person. But when you are a neighbor to someone, when you are neighboring, it's a verb. It means you're serving your neighbor. It means you're looking out for the best interest of those around you. It doesn't mean that you just do whatever is best for your own self-interest, but you begin to see the others around you as people that can serve together to see the whole port rise. If everyone begins serving together, if it's a character issue really at heart, then the snow begins to melt away. And the Okawa can go fast down the street because the conditions are right. Okay? So when we started working in Ukraine, it was 19 years ago. 19 years ago. And when the fall of the Soviet Union happened, the GDP in Ukraine was lower than it is in Nigeria today. As Ukraine has begun to move forward, they're not completely flourishing. They have war there right now. But even in the midst of war, our portfolio has grown, and the default rate, the repayment rate on these loans has decreased even in the midst of war. Because people are looking out for each other and they respect one another. They are neighboring. They are acting out principles of integrity. So one other example is what has happened in Asia. Have you heard the term Asian tigers? Yeah. Yes. So these Asian tigers, just 30 years ago, the GDP, less than it is in Nigeria today, back then. But they began to perform a culture that was pro-business. No dependency. People need work, need jobs. We need to create that through small loans. They need to have access to those. And we need to begin looking out for each other. And when that happened, the economy started to grow. So I want to show you a short video of a friend of mine. He's from Ghana. And it's an organization we work closely with. He's going to talk about the Asian tigers and the future for Africa. It's 2 minutes long.
The Hippo generation are the ruling elites. They are those who have monopolized political power. And they are those who are stuck in their muddy pedagogical patch. They blame everybody else except themselves. It is always colonialism, imperialism. And they believe that the only way you can solve the problems in Africa is by giving the state more power and more foreign aid. That's the Hippo generation. Okay? And the Hippo generation is what has dragged Africa into this particular swamp. Okay? Africa is not going to move forward with the Hippo generation. And it is on the back of this Hippo generation which the United Nations, the World Bank, and the IMF have been trying to hitch a ride with this same old aid-driven boondoggle. And that's why we're not getting anywhere in Africa. By contrast, we have the cheetah generation. The cheetah generation is the new and angry generation of Africans who can see that their leadership have failed them. And the cheetah generation are those young Africans. They're not going to sit there and wait for governments to come and do things for them. As a matter of fact, they're not going to sit there and beg for foreign aid. Because they can see that every social need in Africa is a business opportunity. The cheetah generation is entrepreneurial. They are the young and the agile, and they are fast. Their outlook is refreshingly different. Asia has its tigers, Africa will have its cheetahs.
The exciting thing to me about this is that you have the opportunity to raise up these cheetahs. They are walking your halls, they are in your classrooms, and they are hungry. But you get to hold the door for them. You get to serve them. You get to share your experiences with them. And man, we need them. So my encouragement to you is that you invest deeply in these cheetahs and begin them as the future of Africa. And know that all the aid that we could provide is probably not going to do very much. They need work, they need better opportunities, they need the snow to melt away so that they can begin to thrive. So I maybe have a few minutes for a couple questions, and I have something I want to leave with all of you. It's a book from our organization, and it's called Entrepreneurship for Human Flourishing. Okay? So I have enough for everyone, so I'll just leave a few on the table, and maybe we can ask a couple questions. Chris, did you want to add anything or say anything?
Well, I do have some to add, but maybe I'll add it later because I'm very passionate about this arena, and I've got a lot of thoughts on that and involvement in that arena. But I also know that you guys are due for a break, so what I want to do is like maybe a couple questions, and then we'll just close the questions. And then if you want to during the break, come up to Chris and ask him a few questions because he does have to run. So maybe we'll take like Mark like 3 or 4 questions, let Chris answer it, and then we'll have a break. And then you guys run the restrooms or whatever, and then connect with Chris during the break. So question? Yeah.
We have a question back here.
Mine is a question as also to share our experience. One is that if you are interested in investing in a microfinance bank in Nigeria, we have one. We just acquired a moribund microfinance bank, recapitalized it, restructured it, and commenced operation. That is the National Open University of Nigeria Microfinance Bank. We've reserved 25% for direct foreign investment. If you are interested or you have organizations that are interested, it is up to the tune of 25% of our capital base. And that we are willing to give you a seat on the board and also a position in the management of that bank. So that you see to it what we do, who we give out the money to, and how we put up the recovery process. That is one. There are so many challenges in Nigeria when you are operating a microfinance bank. One of these challenges is this. You are dealing with the bottom of the pyramid, the down poor, who are in rural areas, some in urban areas, but no fixed address. So if you are giving out money, you must group them together and verify that address before you give out the money. Otherwise, your money is gone and gone forever. The other challenge is this. You have interference from the husband interfering with the business of the wife. For example, these are practical examples that I've seen. The wife will be doing business, making progress, and the husband will loan the money that you have given to the wife to do business. And at the end of the day, you have a non-performing loan for no fault of the customer. That is the wife. The most painful thing to a banker is when you see your money is going down the drain and you cannot help it. And she cannot leave the husband because of your loan. Okay? So, there are challenges, but as much as possible we've put up some structures on ground. Cooperative, forming them, making them to form into cooperatives, and then give them, and then we have joint and several guarantees. If I'm giving this group money, I will make sure that you guarantee this and this one will guarantee. So there will be joint and several guarantees. That will reduce the risk of default. Right. So this is my practical.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, we see about 70% of our clients are women, and certainly there are cases in which what you spoke of could happen. But one of the most motivating factors for someone is to get another loan, because they know this loan is lasting for 6 months, and maybe it's for a very small amount. And another very important concept is that the group gets to decide how much money you take out in a loan. So if they don't trust you, they're not going to let you in your group. If they don't trust your husband, if you're a female, they're not going to let you in the group. So these women are getting together. 70% of our clients are women. And they say, I'm sorry, we like you, but we don't trust your husband. You can't join it. If my wife was in a group, they probably would say that to her. The other piece is that they decide how much your loan will be for. So even if they trust you, they trust your husband, they say, you know, your business is good, but I don't think you need $10,000 right now. Maybe let's start with $200,000. You know? And they decide together as a group what the next step is going to be. And that really helps some of those problems, some of the structure in place. There's a motivation to get another loan. And again, there's respect at the table. We want to see our whole community move forward, not just me.
All right, what I'd like to do, if it's okay, because I saw your hand up, do you mind if Miss Nancy?
Thanks. Okay, so I begin to start talking fast. So if I talk too fast, y'all slow me down. Just say, whoa, stop. The one thing that I heard from you guys yesterday was there were several questions about, these are students and you're saying we need to involve the community and we need to engage the community and these folks need mentors and advisors but you know, how do you trust those people and how do you know what you need? So I started thinking about that and what I was going to say to you guys today, I tweaked, for lack of a better word, last night, but I want to talk to you a little bit about the differences between an incubator, an accelerator, and what we call co-working spaces. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about entrepreneurs in residence or executives in residence, advisors and mentors, and why you need a myriad of all of those things. Obviously, we're here to talk about entrepreneurship centers in universities, but eventually these students do graduate and they need a place to go. And I think what's so really great and what has happened in Atlanta is that we have, like I said, a myriad of different opportunities for young startup entrepreneurs to take that next step. So I want to start by talking to you about the differences between an incubator and an accelerator, and then we can talk a little bit about a co-working space. I like to think of an incubator, let's kind of compare it, if you will. An incubator and an accelerator are both opportunities for startups and young companies to grow and develop. They both will provide guidance, they both will provide an opportunity for them to learn. But an incubator is like you have a child and you are going to teach the child to walk, you're going to teach the child, you're going to potty train the child, you're going to do all those things that children have to do to grow up. And you know, children learn those things in a vast majority of ways. It takes some longer than others, some just stand right up and walk. Some, it takes a little longer, they crawl a little longer, and an incubator is like that. An incubator allows a child, which we will refer to as a startup business, it allows them to take whatever time they need in varying stages to grow up. So we start the business over here, and then we're going to learn, we're going to commercialize the product, we're going to get clients, we're going to get financing, we're going to do all those things, and it takes a varying amount of time. And incubators allow that opportunity. They usually provide office space, they provide guidance, if you will, they help them grow as they get started. An accelerator is like comparing a different stage in life. How many of you have teenagers? Anybody have teenagers? Okay, so do you know how painful it was to go from adolescence to adulthood? You know the problems they cause you, and you go, I taught you better than that. Why did you do that? So an accelerator kind of jumps in after you've raised the child, after you taught him to walk, you got him to school, you taught him manners, you taught him all those things that helped him grow up, and then all of a sudden, adolescence hits. And they stumble. They have problems. They need help. Perhaps they're doing horrible in algebra. They need help. So you get a tutor in. An accelerator is like that. It's like a tutor for an adolescent. Your business is going well, your business is moving along, and all of a sudden you have a blip. And that could be a good blip. It could be that all of a sudden you got your intellectual property has been approved, and now you've got a patent, and now all of a sudden you think you can take that business from a startup or from a very small growth company to get funding. And you need somebody to help you with your pitch or with your value proposition that's going to help you get in front of the right funding sources. So an accelerator program is just that. It accelerates you through this period of time to get you prepared for something different. It could be financial. It could be, it could be some kind of business development opportunity. It could be a new branding for your business. It could be, helping you as a CEO determine if you are the appropriate person to be the CEO to lead the company into the future. There are a lot of companies these days who have CEOs that they were the brainchild behind the technology or the product or whatever it was, and all of a sudden it's taken off. And now they really need somebody who has a different kind of mentality to lead the company to be the CEO. So a lot of times accelerator programs will do those kinds of things. I actually I'm a mentor in a women's accelerator program here in Atlanta. And with my background, I am a mentor in the world of connections. How do you take connections that you know and really accelerate them into business opportunities? How do you do those types of things? So they will use me as the person to help if somebody's got some business development opportunities and they just don't really know how to move forward with that. So again, an incubator it starts, it grows very gradually, and a startup could stay in an incubator for years. Depends on whether or not the incubator has term limits, if you will, for how long you can stay there. An accelerator is a program that probably will last 3 to 6 months. There's probably a very structured program. There's probably an end game, if you will. This is what you have to do to graduate from this accelerator program, and this is what's going to happen at the end when you do that. There are also things that we call in Atlanta co-working spaces, and those are just opportunities for startups or young companies to have a place to go where they don't have to sign a 5-year lease. You don't know a lot of times if you start a business if it's even going to survive 6 months, much less 5 years. I can tell you when I started mine, I was in the staffing business for 29 years, and the last 4 of it I owned my own business. And again, remember the word 4. I had a 5-year lease before the lady came to me, my competitor came to me and asked me if I'd be willing to sell my business, and I was like, you betcha I would. Anyway, but I had a 5-year lease, and she didn't need my space, she just wanted my business, and she wanted my recruiters, and she wanted my contracts. So I had to negotiate to get out of that space. Anyway, a lot of times startups, they don't know what the future is going to be like. So they want a place where they can go and they can rent 1 desk, 2 desks, a little small office for 2 to 4 people. They can grow to 6 to 8. They can grow to 12. And it's generally, once you get past about 12 to 15 people, they expect you to move out because you've hit a level of success. But the other piece to that is it gives an opportunity, as David Cummings here in Atlanta says, serendipitous collaboration, or collision, I think is what he calls it. It's where entrepreneurs can come and they can sit around and talk about what they're doing, and they're experiencing the same types of issues, the same types of thrills and agonies of defeat and all of those different types of things. They can throw their new app that they just created on their phone over to another entrepreneur and say, hey, see if you can destroy this, see if it works. They can take a new game and they can push it out to the community that they kind of live in, if you will, and they can say, hey, try this game, let me know what you think. So it gives them an opportunity to just coexist, and that's what we refer to as co-working space. So those are the 3 different types of things, and we can talk a little bit more, but a lot of times you will find that universities have incubators because they have the opportunity to take a student right when he comes in and give him the opportunity to kind of be entrepreneurial and grow a business. A lot of times accelerators, if you will, are after they leave the university. We at Kennesaw State University have decided that we're going to have this center outside of the university, outside of Chris's Entrepreneurship Center, and we are going to have differing types of incubators, differing types of accelerators, and the co-working space. We're going to have it all in one. So we're going to let Chris birth some babies over here, birth some entrepreneurs, and we're going to have a space for them to come once they leave the university. Sorry.
Bless you. Sorry. Bless you. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jim. Okay, let's talk about the differences now between executives or entrepreneurs in residence and mentors and advisors. A lot of times you, and I don't know if all the group has or has not been entrepreneurs yourselves, but you know just from being in business that you have that one person in your life, or those one or two or three people in your life that are your go-tos. They have no real relationship with your business. They have no real relationship with what's going on, but they care about you. And a lot of times that's what you'll find, thank you, that's what you'll find in an entrepreneur or a executive in residence. And they will be the person that just really has that kind of ability to help, and they just want to help. And a lot of big corporations now have entrepreneurs in residence because major corporations out there, they're running like big business. And this entrepreneur in residence is kind of this person who can help big business understand what it's like to work with small business. They can kind of bring them back to reality. Remember when we weren't a $23 billion company? Remember when we were entrepreneurial? Remember how we needed to solve this problem? Well, let's bring this back to reality. So there are people out there called entrepreneurs or executives in residence. But what you'll find mostly in kind of the entrepreneurial world are what we refer to as mentors and advisors. And a mentor is that kind of person. Brad Feld wrote a book, and I had the opportunity to hear him speak a couple weeks ago. He wrote a book, Startup Communities, and he refers to the mentor as that person that says, how can I help? He or she is the person who is just wanting to help you, for you to grow, for your company to be successful. He can provide all different kinds of advice. He may not be the right person to help you. If his background was financial, he can help you with finances, but he's the kind of person who will say to you, looks like you really need help with business development, and I know somebody that can help you. He's the kind of person that will be able to get you past that I guess, blip in the road, if you will. An advisor is more about the company. An advisor is somebody in our world that actually has a vested or financial interest in your company. In other words, you have a fiduciary responsibility to return their investment to them. So they're not about you. They're not about you. They're about the success of the company. So an advisor is more about investing in the company, whereas the mentor is investing in you. And I believe that every startup, every small business, every company needs a myriad of all of those things. So if you're a startup, you go back to the incubator, you might need a place to get started, to learn to walk, to get to adolescence. Somewhere along the way, you're probably going to need an accelerator that helps you move past that blip in the road. Everybody needs a mentor, or 2 or 3 or 10. And I can tell you, I had several mentors in my life, and they come to you in different ways, but mentors are available for startups and small businesses. And then advisors are those people who will invest, who will say, and most companies need those too. A lot of times they start off as, we refer to them as friends, families, and fools, because they invest in things they shouldn't be investing in. But Anyway, but mentors and advisors are very, very important, and they exist in all of the different phases of a startup life. So as far as co-working spaces go, they also have advisors and mentors, and a lot of times the people who are in charge of those spaces will help identify mentors and advisors. If you don't have the luxury of knowing, if you're new to town or you moved from Topeka, Kansas to KSU and you're starting your business here, you may not have a community that you know that you can go out to. So these spaces or these entrepreneurship centers will be able to connect you to people who could potentially be your mentor, who could potentially be an advisor and invest in your business. So those are the differing stages. One of the things we also talked about yesterday, one of the questions I think came up is, again, back to why should you be involved in the community? And I will tell you that the first thing is that you shouldn't wait for the community to come to you. You should go to the community. They have to know you, they have to respect you, and the community wants to help. They want to be able to know about new businesses, invest in new businesses, help you with new businesses, but they have to know what's going on. Chris and I, that's how we met, actually. He was working for the Entrepreneurship Center at the University of Georgia, and he actually approached the Metro Atlanta Chamber and said, hey, I could do some programs for your small businesses if you want me to. And of course, I was new to the chamber at the time, and I was just looking for anybody who would help me, and I said, come on down. So for the last 4.5 years, Chris and several of the people that he knew in that world would come to the chamber and do programs. And he would do programs on everything from your value proposition and pitch to finances to all different types of things for our businesses. And what it did was it not only helped the community, but it also helped the community understand what he was trying to accomplish at the University of Georgia. So it was interesting when he made the move from University of Georgia to Kennesaw State, everybody in Metro Atlanta at the chamber were like, wow, we need to know more. So let's learn more about what's going on up there. So now they're all coming up here, and knowing that Chris and I are both up here, they're like, how can we help? Which leads to why you need partners. So we've got incubators, accelerators, and co-working space. We've got entrepreneurs in residence, mentors and advisors, and you have partners. And those partners are the people that you are going to look for outside your university and community right there. You're going to go outside and you're going to start understanding and knowing an attorney who does intellectual property, an accountant who really knows how to help a business set up their QuickBooks or their accounting system. You're going to find bankers who focus on small business, who are willing to help them, who focus on in our world, the Small Business Administration, those who actually loan to startups and small businesses. You're going to find people who will do pro bono work for marketing and social media. They will actually help get you started. And if you don't get into the community to know what's going on outside your world, they're not going to know what you're doing, so they're not going to come to you unless you bring them in. So, very important for us to know that all of these things have to work together, and you have to have each and every one of them to succeed. Again, I go back to my work at the Chamber helped me understand the difference in knowing people and connecting people. When I was I worked for a major corporation here in Atlanta. I helped them start a staffing company, and it was funny. People would call me and they would say, hey Nance, do you know who at this company buys, and they would say some, I don't know, widget or something. And I would basically say, yeah, I just really don't know. Because in corporate America, you don't really need people. You really have to know, who to call. So you know there's an accountant there, you know there's an attorney there, you know the people in IT will come help you with your computer, but you don't really need people. So you go in business for yourself and you're a startup and you need people. You need an attorney. You need an accountant. You need somebody to help you set up your QuickBooks. You need somebody who will help you get your brand, your logo, help you with your social media. So you have to have those people. So when I left corporate America and went into business for myself, I realized I needed people. So when I went to the chamber and I started meeting all these people, I realized that I had the ability to connect people. And so I spent a lot of time as these incubators and accelerators and co-working spaces came open. I would spend time, because I was in the mix of all these businesses in Atlanta. And so I would spend time with these startups and say, where are you? What do you need? How can I help? And they would say, wow, I really could use somebody that can help me put together an RFP for some major corporation. And a lot of times, they really weren't qualified. And Chris and I both love to say, it's hard to tell somebody their baby's ugly. But sometimes these small businesses are not very pretty, and they're not going to succeed. But you have to be able to help them understand that. So being able to connect the community outside of your school and university back into, that helps you understand who's credible. And I think the question yesterday was, how can I trust the people that want to engage with my students? It's because you know them already. Because you've gone outside, you're out in the community, they know who you are, you know who they are, and that way you know that they're willing to help and that their intentions are very clear. So that's kind of in a nutshell, and I know I'm standing between lunch and right now, but I do want to be able to answer some of your questions. So does anybody have questions? I can talk for hours about incubators and accelerators, so yes, sir.
Yeah, I think we should give her a round of applause first. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. From what you have said, I seem to understand that the time between incubator, accelerator, co-working space may vary depending on the circumstances. But from the way you approach it, I want to ask you this question. Are there gender issues involved in entrepreneurship? Gender problems that I mean, because you belong to this gender, you find it difficult to get through these processes. Those you may need to have advisors, mentors, may not be willing because they know you are going to succeed or it's going to be difficult for you. I just watch issues here, and if you have it, how do you deal with them?
Okay, so let me make sure I understand your question. Because of differing gender, race, minority, disability, veteran status, those types of things, is it harder, and how do you get past all that? Is that it? Okay. The interesting thing that I will tell you is that this Women Accelerator program that I mentor, half of the mentors in there are men, which is kind of interesting. I do believe that a lot of times people will focus on differing groups. There is a really strong accelerator program for veterans that Kennesaw State is involved in a little bit as well. They've got a program for veteran-owned businesses. But there are a lot of strong programs for that. And I think what's interesting is those people who want to be advisors, mentors, help with being partners, they don't really care if it's a specific gender or what it is. They genuinely want to give back to the community. And I do believe, I think one of the other things that you said was that it's harder for some of those folks to get into business. And I would say, as a woman, that it could potentially be. But I think a lot of those barriers, at least in our world, are beginning to break down because women are opening and succeeding in businesses more now today than men are in the United States. So they are. I wish I could remember that stat. But women are succeeding. And women in the world, don't you think we're better at running businesses? Okay.
there's a lot of data on women entrepreneurship, but here's one that women tend to find the most interesting. Is imagine a business that had like $1 million in sales, right? Their revenue is $1 million, and it's owned by a woman. And the same business owned $1 million in sales, owned by a man. The one that is owned by the man will have double the number of employees used to produce the same $1 million. So when we measure productivity, it's like sales divided by, or your revenue divided by the number of employees. It's a measure of productivity. Women are way more productive as entrepreneurs. They do way more with less. Way more.
We've been doing way more for a long time. Doesn't matter. Yes. Martin, can you? We got 2 or 3 right up here.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I'm looking at what you said about the incubators and the accelerators, especially within the university situation. And I would want to know whether those people who participate in this program are remunerated in any way. I mean, if they are coming from outside the system.
Say it again.
The coaches, these people who are participating in incubation centers, who are coaching the students or those who are part of this program, and at the level of even as a bit later in life, do they need any, let me look at the incubators first, because this has to do with the undergraduate program and other people who are within the university. Are they remunerated in any way?
So let me make sure I understand your question. Are the people in the incubator programs that are associated with universities, are they coming from the outside? Are they starting later in life as opposed to being a student in the school? Most incubators in universities have a student requirement. So it doesn't mean that somebody later in life can't be a student at the university and go through the incubator. But there are a lot of incubators, at least in our world, there are a lot of incubators that are outside of the university system. So that's where those people might go. Georgia Tech actually has an incubator. It's the Advanced Development Technology Center. And you don't have to be a student at Georgia Tech to be a part of the incubator, but you do have to meet minimum requirements. So you have to have some type of technology product. You have to have, it has to have been commercialized. You have to have been in business a certain period of time so that, you know, it's moving along. They also have what they call Flashpoint, which is kind of a cross between an incubator and accelerator. And you do have to be a student to be in that one. So, what was? Right.
But you have them, you know, helping the students, and they're not part of the university.
Are they being paid?
Are they being paid?
Oh, are they being paid? No. Mentors are not paid at all. Advisors, if you have an advisor, then the company itself, the startup company itself, has entered into that kind of agreement with them. So, but the university system is not paying. No.
In the university, what is the source of funding for that program in the university? Is it drawn from the budget of the university, or do you have linkages with the private organization? That how are you generating funds to keep them? Because business needs huge capital.
Are you talking about who funds the incubator?
Yes, the program as a whole.
For the university?
For the university, source of funding. Because we attempted doing that in our university some time ago. We wanted to copy, the federal government of Nigeria has a body, an agency called National Board for Technology Incubation. So it's being funded by the government. There are 36 of them nationwide, and the government pays the staff and everything. But this one is now university based. Does it take budget from the university, or do people source for private organizations that assist people to fund them?
So you're probably all over the board in the way things are funded here. There are universities who set up these incubators as nonprofits. separate and aside of the university, and the money comes through grants and foundations to help them fund it. There are some universities out there who will get it funded and then provide staff back to it. So, you know, the staff is teaching over here and they're giving their time over here. It's kind of all over the board. I don't know that there's a really great answer to that, but I think you will find most of them set themselves up outside the university as a 501c3, which is a nonprofit. And then they get grants and foundation and money from other places, sponsorships and things like that. So that's the other thing that is really great about incubators and accelerators and co-working space here is that a lot of times the partners who want to work with these participants, they will give money and sponsor events so that they can be in the mix of those people. But I'm not sure I have a really great statistic that tells you, I'll give that one to Chris to do some research as to how they're all funded. But for the most part, the ones that I'm aware of and the ones I know of sit outside the university as a separate collaboration, if you will. So I'm not sure did that answer your question? It didn't, but it did. I said I don't know. Sorry. Any other questions? Mark, right over there. And then I'll let you guys get lunch. I can see y'all are all like ready.
Please, I still want to get further clarification on the distinction between the incubation and the accelerator, and then what follows, that is the creating the enabling space as well as partnering. Because as I was following the lectures, like I've not gotten a very good grasp of this distinction and how one can implement that or create it in an environment as well. Because the key issue here is that incubator, and then the accelerator, and then to see the function that follows those stages. So if we could shed more light, that would be very good. Thank you.
So, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? And how does it all, when do you do it? Is that your question? Like, do you need them all? And when do they kick in? Okay. Gosh, it'd be kind of like his question. A lot of folks, a lot of universities or a lot of these spaces, these co-working spaces, will create the space or will create the accelerator that gives them the opportunity to see the interest, if you will, first. And then from that, a lot of times they will identify that there is a strong enough group of folks who really are not far enough along and really need the incubation, if you will. They need, an accelerator program is very defined. It's a very defined period of time. You have certain measurables and things that you're required to do. So at the end of 6 months, you're basically kicked out of the nest again. So at that point, a lot of times they will find that an incubator really is necessary because half the people who were in the accelerator really weren't grown up yet, and they really needed more incubation. So a lot of times incubators kind of starts backwards. Co-working spaces, at least the ones that I'm familiar with, a lot of times will create the co-working space because they know that they've got so many people who need a desk or an office or a place to go or people to commune with. And from there, they will start an incubator because they know they've got a group of folks that are interested in being part of it. And again, an incubator and an accelerator are very defined programs. I mean, you know, you come in, you have deliverables that you have to do, whereas a co-working space is really just you going to your office, which happens to be a space that you share with 200 or 300 or 400 other people at an office building of some sort. But an incubator and accelerator have programs. So a lot of times the incubator will get started because you've got all these people that have come together. I don't know if that answered your question, but I can talk to you more about that. If you've got a particular situation, it might be easier to answer that. So.
We'll take the last question and then
Okay.
we'll break for lunch.
Okay. And I'll hang around if I have some questions.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to know, because as we are talking, I tend to believe that issue of incubation and acceleration is like someone having a history, family history, like someone trying to meet a doctor. The doctor will inquire first and look for the folder and check the family history, how he's been treated for a long time. That's looking at incubation. Then before you move to acceleration, for you to know the systematic and steps you have followed. Then if that is exactly what we are talking about, I want to know what are the ingredients in center of incubation? What are the likely portfolios that are required in incubation center vis-a-vis acceleration center? And how do they link in course of procession?
Great question. Okay, so an incubator is usually used to help define every stage or every aspect of a business. So in your first week, month, you may be working on your financials. The second month, you may be working on your business development or your brand development, how you're going to take it to market. Your fourth month, you may be working on things like your marketing plan, your social media plan. You may be working on your intellectual property and getting all of that taken care of. All of that is a long kind of process, and you're going to work on those things all along. And again, it goes back to teaching a child to walk. It may take me longer to get my brand and who's going to actually buy my products identified, who's my client base, than it might take you. So it takes me longer to walk than it takes you to walk. That's why incubators kind of take time. So you've got programs going on all the time. But how long does it take you to understand your finances, to get your budget done, to work in the capital that you've got? I might have $1 million to play with, and you might only have $100,000 to play with, in which case you've got to make different decisions than I do to walk. So it's all based on your business. So it's all the things that go into a business. All finances, branding, marketing, all the legal aspects, all of those things. And a lot of times incubators bring in outsiders to go through the concepts, and then the people that are there on staff or that are giving their time will work with each individual company's CEO to get them kind of moving in the right direction. So you may, because you have a financial head, you may get the financial concepts just like that, whereas I'm more of a branding person. So I might have a harder time understanding cash flow and balance sheet, whereas you might have a hard time trying to figure out how you're going to sell it to the outside world. So that's why incubators exist, so you can kind of take the time you need to get there. Now, an accelerator program is going to be all those things, but on steroids. It's going to be like, wow, we're going to hit all of these things. And a lot of times, accelerator programs are there so that they can introduce you to some very high-powered investors or partners or people who can really get you from point A to point Z. Incubators kind of take you very slowly, whereas accelerators, just like the word accelerate means, they're going to take you fast, and they're going to get you in front of those people. Yes, sir?
Sorry, I follow up. What you are trying to explain to us, if we are not entrepreneurs. We are not starting our own business.
Right.
All of us are here. We are from one institution or the other. We want to open a center of incubation in an entrepreneurship center. What are needed to have it in that center? So that's exactly what we needed at this point. So in that structure, this is an office of this is entrepreneurship center. Then this here is an incubation center. Here is acceleration center. Here is another center. So then in this office of incubation, what are needed?
So basically, what's needed from the perspective of the university to sort of have?
Yeah, I don't know if you know what I'm saying. You know, in an entrepreneurship center, you have the individual portfolio or function. Then inside that entrepreneurship center, you have incubation center, incubation office. Because if you walk into an entrepreneur center, you walk into this side, you say it's an incubation office. You go this side, it's a selection office. Depending on when someone is coming in, is coming to assess information depending on what he needs. So, and when you walk into that center, what are the offices, what are the available functions in there, so that there's someone who is trying to set up an entrepreneurship center, and that will now know these are the things that are required to set up a center.
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, like for us as an entrepreneurship center, when somebody walks in, like we need to tell them what to do or what the next step is. So somebody walking into our entrepreneurship center, if they are an aspiring entrepreneur, we have programs, groups, and individuals that we can connect them with to help them. We also offer classes that they can take. We offer seminars, so if you're not a student, you know, and you want to sort of, you're a business owner, say, look, I'm not a student anymore, and we can show them where they go. So as an entrepreneurship center, you say, okay, you need to define, okay, what's our vision and what's our mission? What are we doing? And when the person walks in, okay, so how do we deliver what we're aspiring to do? Like, we want to help entrepreneurs. Okay, great. What does that mean to us? Is that classes and curriculums? Great. Then we're going to design these classes and curriculum and get them to sign up for those classes and curriculum. It's, okay, well, we want to serve people who just can't afford the tuition, or they don't go to our college. Great, then we're going to do this seminar come Thursday at 6 p.m. and we're going to do these things. So you design, okay, how do we deliver our promise? Through what programs and activities are you delivering your promise?
And do you have entrepreneurs to do that, or do you?
Yes.
Okay.
We have entrepreneurs and people in the community who help us because we're very limited staff. Our entrepreneurship center is 2 people, Mark and myself. So we have a limited number of people, so that's why we engage the community so that we can say, okay, we can't deliver all the content, but who can? Let me partner this person with this business owner, or this attorney, or this accountant.
So I think that was your question, is how you get
You explain an autonogram of entrepreneurship center. I know what I'm talking about. I know the business. You explain the innovation center. You explain the innovation center. Yeah, talking about something who want to be an entrepreneur. It comes to
accelerators. Now what they're saying is, you want to take this thing back and work in the university. Now they already have a entrepreneurship center. They already have a building of entrepreneurship center. They want to know how to implement it on ground. Put the innovation, put the co-working space, and have the accelerator, all within one department. Now what happens here, what happens here, what happens there?
Okay.
So it's similar in the way we're working together, because when somebody, like the space itself, handled by her. Curriculum, handled by me, right? So I handle curriculum, I handle some programs and activities. She handles the business owners who are coming in, screening them, you know, making sure that their needs are taken care of and supporting them in those environments.
So the university creates the curriculum and gives us the opportunity to build on what they've done, and they bring that outside the university. So Chris is not setting up the center or the Business Success Center inside the university. We're setting that up outside the university. And it's being funded by state funds and grants as a non-profit over here. And then he'll come over here and work with me. Does that answer the question? Sorry.
All right, so here's what we want to do. Thank you, Nancy. Let's give Nancy a big round of applause. Okay, so let me just explain the rest of the day, because I was told that you guys actually have to be at your hotel earlier than we originally planned. So we made some adjustments. So we're going to have lunch, we're going to get lunch, and I was just told of a phenomenal activity we can do during lunch that we're going to do together, as opposed to what I had originally planned, because I thought that was a great idea. So we're going to do that. We'll get your food, and then we're going to come together. We're going to eat. We're going to do a little bit of an exercise. Then from there, we're going to depart this room. We're going to go into a classroom. We have one more expert on international entrepreneurship that's coming. And then we're going to do a wrap-up in there, because my biggest fear, or the thing that I would find as a failure of our time together, is if we leave here and then that's the end of the story. Because how can a seed harvest if we don't keep moving? So I want to do a, yes, right, we're going to have that, So we're going to do one more speaker in the other classroom. We're going to do a wrap-up and then get you out of here earlier than we had originally planned, which means I made a promise of ice cream, and you're not going to go to the ice cream place so we don't get ice cream. But we do have some good food for you, so if you guys just want to get up right now and go get some food, you can start the line. All the food is right there.